I think, therefore I am, René Descartes wrote in his Discourse on the Method. It is perhaps the most famous sentence in Western philosophy, and it rests on a quiet, radical claim that the self can be found alone. Strip away the body, the family, the community, the world itself, Descartes argued, and what's left standing, indubitable, is a single thinking mind. The self, on this account, is a fortress. It does not need anyone else to exist. That question, what am I, has a famous answer built in a heated room in Holland, and a very different one built in the homesteads of the East African coast, where the self was never assumed to stand alone in the first place. Descartes gave us the first. Descartes arrived at his famous line through an experiment in radical isolation. In the opening pages of his Meditations on First Philosophy, he describes withdrawing from the world entirely to conduct it. I have delivered my mind from every care, he wrote, and have delivered myself to entire freedom from occupation. I have withdrawn to a period of solitary leisure. Alone, with every belief he could doubt set aside, Descartes searched for one thing he could not doubt. He found it in the act of doubting itself. Something must be doing the doubting. That something, thinking, became the bedrock of the self. Everything else, including other people, was placed on the far side of an epistemological wall to be proven, not assumed. The self came first. Relationship to others had to be argued into existence afterward, if it could be argued at all. This picture, the self as a sealed unit that only secondarily and uncertainly connects to others, became one of the load-bearing assumptions of modern Western thought. It shows up in political theory as the individual with inherent rights prior to any society. It shows up in therapy rooms as the work of finding yourself, as though the self were an object buried under other people's expectations, waiting to be excavated alone. It is so deeply built into how a great deal of the world now thinks about identity that it rarely feels like a claim at all. It feels like a fact. On the Swahili coast, and across much of the African continent, the starting assumption runs the other way. Utu, a word carrying personhood, humanness, the quality of being fully a person, was never something an individual could achieve alone. The Kenyan philosopher and theologian John Mbiti, writing on the traditional understanding of personhood across East and Central Africa, put the reversal of Descartes plainly. I am because we are, and since we are, therefore I am. Read Descartes and Mbiti side by side, and the order of operations has simply flipped. For Descartes, the I is certain and the we has to be proven. For Mbiti's account of Utu, the we is the ground the I stands on. In the first place, remove it, and there is no self left to examine. This was not an abstract position. It described an actual way of living. On the coast, a homestead was rarely built for one family in isolation. Compounds housed grandparents, parents, children, and often unrelated dependents under one roof or one shared courtyard, with cooking, child rearing, and decision-making distributed across the group rather than held by a single household. A Swahili saying still carries the same logic. Umoja ni nguvu, utengano ni udhaifu. Unity is strength, division is weakness. Personhood, in this framework, was something conferred and maintained by a community, earned through right relationship with elders, neighbors, and kin, not something already sitting inside you at birth, waiting only to be discovered. It would be a mistake, though, to romanticize this as a conflict-free alternative to Descartes' isolated self. A self defined entirely through its relations carries its own danger. If personhood is granted by the group, it can also be withheld by the group. Exile, in a framework like this, is not merely lonely, it can mean a kind of social death, a stripping away of the very personhood the community had been sustaining. The Cartesian self, whatever else is wrong with it, cannot be taken away from you by other people's disapproval. The relational self can. The honest position, then, is not that one account is simply correct and the other simply mistaken. It's that Descartes and Utu are answering the same question: what am I? Fundamentally, with two different starting assumptions about where the self begins, and each carries a cost the other doesn't. The isolated self buys independence at the price of always having to prove that anyone else is real. The relational self buys belonging at the price of a personhood that can be revoked. What Utu offers, at its best, is a corrective to a very specific modern loneliness. The sense, common enough in a culture built on Descartes' assumption that connection to others is an optional feature, bolted onto a self that would otherwise be complete alone. On the coast, that was never the premise. The self was never a fortress to begin with. It was, from the start, a set of relations, and a person was only ever as whole as the we that held them.